and forget that I'm living in the land of the free. I should be ashamed when I complain that I don't have what I need, when there are people in this world who would give anything just to be in America.
Hey folks, it's Ron with On Fire Concerts, and we're here today with country music artist Sammy Sadler. Sammy is also the survivor of the 1989 shooting on Music Road that's become known as Murder on Music Road, that we'll be discussing, and more stuff. Good morning, Sammy. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Ron. I appreciate it.
We've been looking forward to this interview because you've got an amazing story that needs, I think needs to be out there, and I mean, you and I have talked, and I think that this is I think it's a great story. I mean, it needs to be told.
Well, whenever the shooting happened to us, Ron, I mean, it instantly went around the world as a Murder on Music Row, and I mean, Unsolved Mysteries, A&E Cold Case Files, Nancy Grace, Entertainment Tonight. I mean, all of them it was all over the world,
Yeah, everybody carried it, and we're gonna get to all that, but just the early part so people know. I believe you were born in Memphis. I was born in Memphis, but I believe you were born in Memphis, but grew up in Texas.
I was born in Memphis in 1966, and I think we lived there till I was nearly 2 years old, and then we ended up moving back to Texas, to where my father was originally from, and I was raised in Texas, but I've got roots in Texas and Tennessee both.
That, and being from Texas, there's all the people I grew up, Waylon and Willie, and all these folks are out there. So you had a lot of influences, I'm sure, in your music.
I did, and early on, I guess, one of my big influences, I guess, was Elvis, and Roy Orbison and those kind of guys. And then I got into country music, and like you said, Willie and Waylon, George Jones, Merle Haggard. I mean, I could just go on and on, there's just been so many greats,
When did you decide to, I guess you get asked this a lot, but when did you decide music is what Sammy Sadler wanted to do and going to Nashville?
Well, my family said when I was 2-3 years old, I'd pull myself up to the radio or to the stereo player and sit there and dance beside the records or the radio and try to just dance along with all that. But as I was a sports guy and excelled in sports, and I had to make a choice whether I was going to pursue a baseball career or if I was going to pursue a music career by the time I was getting ready to graduate. But as a lot of us, I mean, I put a band together in school and ended up playing some school functions, and then ended up going around and playing different things around town and different places. And then by the time I was 15 or 16, I'd played the Louisiana Hayride twice. And I guess about midways through my middle school, high school years, I got kind of bit by the music bug. And once you have that inside you, man, it's kind of hard to hard to let go of.
That's true. So when did you decide to make the jump from Texas to Nashville?
Well, Ron, back in my early days, even in school, I was the lead singer for Perfect Stranger for 3 years. Okay. And I ended up leaving and going to Nashville not even 6 months probably after I graduated from high school. And within 4 or 5 months, I had a record deal at 18 years old, and I'd signed with Evergreen Records at the time, and they had Norval Feltz over there and Robin Lee, and Robin was just kind of departing, I guess you could say, and she moved on to Atlantic Records and had the big record Black Velvet over there on Atlantic. And then Joe Stampley joined Evergreen with us. And, so by the time I was 18, I had a record deal. And by the time I was 21, I had 6 nationally charted records. And then the shooting happened to us in March of 1989 and kind of brought my recording career to a halt.
I was just about to say, and like you said, March of '89, March the 9th of '89, when the shooting did happen, your career was just taking off, really.
It really was. Back in those days, it's kind of unheard of, somebody 18 years old getting a record deal. I mean, back in those days, they wanted people that were, in their late 20s and in their 30s and, and for me to get a deal and have 6 nationally charted records, and we started working on my first album, because back in those days they would just put out singles on you, and see kind of how they would do before they would even cut an album on you. So I had Tell It Like It Is out, was my 6th and fastest rising single, and unfortunately, on March 9, 1989, the shooting happened to us, and I was on the charts, and everything was rolling. And then Billy Joe Royal had put out and cut the same song, and we had kind of a duel going on at radio. But because of the shooting, and obviously Billy Joe having some major success, and on Atlantic Records, he ended up taking that record to number 2, remains the biggest record of his career. And they named his album "Tell It Like It Is."
When the shooting occurred, Kevin Hughes, of course, was killed. Your friend.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about that night and what led up? I mean, how that happened? I guess what all led up to that.
Well, I didn't even know I was going to see Kevin that night. I mean, I was married at the time, and me and my wife had kind of got in a little argument, and I just wanted to really get out of the house and get away from all of it. So I called Kevin up, and the phone just rang and I was pulling the phone away from my ear, and I thought I heard somebody say hello, so I pulled it back up to my ear, and it was Kevin. I said, "Hey man, what are you doing?" He said, I'm working on the charts." And I said, "Well, if you're going to be there a while," I said, I'm gonna come down there and see you. And he said, "Yeah, come on down. I'll leave the door open for you." So I drove down to Cashbox and went into Cashbox, and Kevin was on the phone whenever I went in. And so I just started looking at a magazine, and whenever he got off, I said, "Man, you want to go grab something to eat?" And he said, "Yeah, let's go." And I said, "Well, you want to go in my car or yours?" And he said, "Let's go in mine." So I left my truck there, and we jumped in his car and ended up going down to West End, and eating at Captain D's. And on the way back, we didn't have cell phones back in those days. So I said, "Man, let's stop by my record company's office for a second. Let me use the phone." And we called my parents, and I was talking to my parents, and Kevin had never met my parents, but he got on the phone and said hello to them. And as he got off the phone and sat back down, and I got back on the phone, something rattled the door. We heard something rattle the door, and I said, "Man, what was that?" And he said, "I don't know. I'll go look." So he walked out of the office and walked out the front of Evergreen in the hall, and he looked out and come back in. I said, "What was it?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "Kind of looked like maybe a black guy walking down the street." He said, "The lighting's not very good." He said, "I'm really not for sure." And so I told my parents, I said, "We're going to go, and I'll call you guys tomorrow." So we went out and walked out front and looked out of Evergreen Records offices, and we didn't see anything. And so we ended up walking on out of the office, and we walked out on front of the porch and everything and looked around. We didn't see anything. So we started walking across Music Road there, which is a one-way to Kevin's car. And we were kind of laughing and talking. And I walked in front of Kevin's car and went around and opened the door and sat down. As I started to shut the door, I thought I saw something moving out of the corner of my eye. And I looked up, and whenever I looked up, the guy was standing between me and the door. And all I saw was a mask on, and I saw the gun. And I said, "Oh my God, this guy's got a gun." And I threw my arms up to cover my head. that's when he shot me. And they said Kevin did a barrel roll out into the street and started running back up 16th. And the guy went after him and shot him, and it stood over him, shot him twice in the head.
That's, you're to say the least, fortunate to be here today.
I really am, Ron. Because as I look back over all this, obviously I can't beat a speeding bullet. God had to be with me that night, or it'd have shot me right in the head. And I didn't know how bad I was injured. But that night, as they had took me to Vanderbilt Hospital, as I found out, they ended up operating on me that night, 18 hours under the microscope.
Lord, that's amazing. And, like I said, to be here. And what I found, and we're going to talk about your book, but what I found interesting, and for a long time I worked as a paralegal, so it's not really surprising, I guess, to me, but Metro does things, the Metro Police Department does things I don't understand at all sometimes. Nobody can. But you being shot and in the condition that you were you were still under suspicion as being involved somehow.
Well, I mean, I didn't know any of that for a while, but as time went on, I mean, they made me come in and take a lie detector test. They took me over to Vanderbilt to the I don't know what department it was, but they had a guy that hypnotized me over there. The two detectives were sitting on the couch right behind me whenever they did do that and hypnotize me. And whenever, whatever the guy did, whenever we were finished and got ready to leave, when I got up, I don't even think the police guys didn't even believe if I was hypnotized or not, because they said, was he really hypnotized? And the doctor said, well, of course he was. Yes, he was. And, the only thing that I told them different by doing that for them was that the guy had on a heavier jacket. That's the only thing and the only difference that I could tell them of what I told them in the beginning.
Right. And, it went like 13 years between the shooting and the actual, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, September, 31 years ago this month is when the trial actually was over. But before they had a conviction in this case.
Yeah, it took them 13 years to finally bring justice to it. And I mean, to me, I don't know about you, but I mean, if me and you had done something like that, we'd have been in jail within a week. For it to take this long and things to, when the trial took place and all of that came down, there were 5 record promoters that got immunity for telling their story.
That says something by itself.
Yes, sir. I believe so.
To me, knowing how that says a lot by itself. And you discuss, and people don't want to, that may not remember back then, and maybe today, but back then, the payola, the bribes, all this stuff, how you got charted in some cases, and that's just crazy. But that's how it was, and that's what all this was really around.
Well, it was all, it all evolved around payola. Unfortunately, I didn't make how the business works. I'm just trying to be in it, and that's what this was all about. There was some people and record promoters trying to pay Kevin off underneath the table, and he was an honest guy, right, and he wouldn't take their money, and they shot and killed him over it. And I just happened to be with him that night. And it's really unfortunate that something like that had to happen, and a man had to lose his life. But, even as we fast forward, even today, that unfortunately still goes on.
Oh, the music industry is, Nashville to me, unfortunately, and I love country music. I love music, but Music City or country music in Nashville, the industry has just killed it.
It really has, and I mean, as you said, I mean, I love country music. I mean, I love Nashville. I don't have anything against Nashville. I mean, I'm sorry that that this had to happen to Kevin, and I'm sorry it had to happen to me. And I love the music business as well as Kevin did. That's why he went to Nashville, because he loved doing what he did. And that night obviously changed not only Kevin's fate, it affected a lot of people,
Right.
not just him and I. It affected his family, my family, and a lot of people, and it changed our lives. And unfortunately, the music business is not about talent. It's about money and politics.
Well, it's, I tell people that you're right. And it's, and I told someone the other night, we had someone, I work a lot with the older country artists. And
Yes, sir.
I had told somebody the other night, I said, if George Jones or Merle Haggard came to Nashville as someone just starting out today, in the same situation they were in with the same voice, they couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's a shame. But
it really is.
It's all about the money,
Yeah.
and, one other thing real quick that I thought about when I was reading the book that I hadn't been familiar with in this story. You talked about just a minute ago when y'all were in there on the phone and somebody rattled the door. If that door had been unlocked,
Yeah.
who knows what, if you would be talking to me now.
Well, absolutely, and that's the thing about it is that I've been, I've been at the record company at night before alone by myself down there doing things, and never felt like anything would like that. I look back on all this. I mean, never in a million years do you think you're going to be shot. I mean, this is something that you see on TV and in the movies, and think, you never think something like that could happen to you.
Right. And, I didn't know Kevin personally. I was up and down Music Road a lot back in those days, but I mean, I didn't know Kevin personally, but I knew some people that did know him and had told me, it's like you said a minute ago, Kevin was an honest person.
Yes, he was.
And when you get into payola and bribes and all that, and generally speaking, the artists have no clue.
Yeah.
It's somebody up, it's a select few that know. Everybody else does their job and go home.
Right.
And so it's, it's what happens with the people that has the power to do it. Yeah.
Right. And that's, somebody asked me, well, why you write a book now? Well, I can't answer that. God knows the timing and why things, all I'm trying to do with my book, Ron, it's called A Hit with a Bullet, The Real Murder on Music Row. And all I'm trying to do is tell my story of what I lived through and through my eyes.
Yeah. And I think the book, people need to get this book and read it, because there's a lot more details than we have time to discuss right now. But it's a story that goes into a little bit of all the aspect we talked about, payola, bribes, all this. And it affected your life most definitely, and like you said, Kevin's family and everyone else's. And and talking about you being under suspicion, I remember reading a thing in the book where Tom Thurman, the DA,
yes, sir,
in the end, and you said you were glad he did, and it was said, Sammy Sadler was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's what happened in that case. But music business is it just shows us we never know what's going on behind the scenes a lot of time, and where you can put yourself and you not even be aware of it.
Absolutely.
Tell folks,
my book, my book, like you said, I mean, if you're, I just want somebody, if you're an aspiring singer, songwriter, you want to be in the music business, no matter what genre, I don't care whether it's country, bluegrass, rock and roll, whatever it is, I would ask you to go and get a copy of my book, A Hit with a Bullet. Maybe it will help you with your journey along the way if you're wanting to be in the music business, because it not only it tells about my life, but it also tells about the history of country music. It talks about how careers are really made and what goes on in the business. And if you're an aspiring singer songwriter, I think this book may help you and maybe give you some understanding and may help you along your way to know what to do and what to look for if you're wanting to be in the business.
I think it's a book that, like I said, whether you're like for the new artist that's coming to town, like you're talking about, and for just country music lovers in general. I mean, it's a you want to know the history. This is where you can learn a lot of it. It's there. Sammy, tell us about some of your new music. I know you got a new song out, America.
Yes, we've got In America out, Ron, that a good friend of mine, Tom Payton and Dewana Litz wrote this song. And whenever I heard it a few years ago, and I knew then it was a timeless piece of material. And I believe it's with the world that we're living in and everything that's going on right now, this song is so prominent. If people would just listen and get this song and listen to it and listen to the meaning of the song and the words and the lyrics, I think it would hit home with everybody. I think, this country, I believe this country is in a bad way right now. And this song speaks to the people. And if you would just listen to it, I believe you would get the same meaning and the same feeling that I got out of it.
It is a great song, and we shared it the other night, and I noticed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I've seen on your Twitter feed this morning. You're for the best. You are allowing a free download of it or something.
They may be. I haven't seen that yet. I mean, my record people may be doing something.
I may have something about I know I've seen something on Twitter about it, but it's a great song, and folks need to, like I said, listen to it, and they need to order your book. Where can they do all this at?
Well, they can get the single on all digital platforms in America by Sammy Sadler. And if they want to order the book, you can get it digitally. Simon & Schuster are handling all the digital downloads. Or if you want to get it on Amazon, you can order it from Amazon. Or if you want an autograph copy of it, I'll be glad to autograph it. And you can get that off of my website at sammysadler.com.
Okay. Well, Sammy, we appreciate you taking time and telling this morning, talking with us and sharing with the folks out here. There's going to be a lot more to come from this, folks. So Sammy Sadler's not going anywhere. You're going to be hearing a lot from him, and we know you are. So,
well, Ron, I appreciate that. I've never went away. I've had 3 record deals since the shooting, and every time I've gotten the record deal, my last record deal was on Koch Records, and Koch got bought out by E1 Entertainment for close to $81 million. And 2 months later, they put a for sale sign in the front yard and closed the country division down. So it's kind of left. My career recording wise has kind of been like that. We get the deal and then they shut down or they restructure the label, and it leaves my music unheard. But now we've got a new record label, and I've got a new album coming out, slated to come out in November. It's called 1989. And what I went back and did is I went back to that era and I re-recorded Tell It Like It Is that I had out on the charts at the time of the shooting. I've went in and re-recorded that. And then I took 6 #1 records from that era that I really liked, and we ended up bringing in some of the original artists to sing with me on the record. So I've got Larry Stewart of Restless Heart, Marty Raybon of Shenandoah, and T. Graham Brown with me on the new album. And we're excited about that album coming out because really, today's country music listeners, they don't even know how great music was back then. And you know, they're going to hear Church on the Cumberland Road and Bluest Eyes in Texas and Darlene and some other things that I put on the album that these people today have not even heard.
You know, and it's amazing because I see that you know, we, like I said, we mainly focus with the older music and the older artists that I work with on a regular basis. Talking about T. Graham Brown, we love T. We work with him regularly. You know, it's amazing that the young people that I see that come to our shows said, I've never heard this, you know, and they love it, and they love it,
and they love it, exactly. And I mean, that's the thing, is that, you know, they push all this other stuff down your throat, and you know, you only have a playlist of about 15 or 20 records, and there's so many great artists out here, and there's so much great music that doesn't get played on the radio, and the artists that paved the way for these people, they just want to push them to the wayside, but they're the ones who paved the way for these people and made the way for country music. And you know, you're talking about T. Graham, and you talk about Shenandoah and Restless Heart and all these people, they're still out working, they're still out touring, and there's a market, and people want to hear that kind of music, and they want to come see that show.
Well, I mean, you know, like I said, we've got shows that you know, one in particular, we got Gene Watson coming up, and you know, it still sells out. So, you know, the smaller venues.
Absolutely.
But, you know, Gene, the music is better today. You know, I think Gene, for example, has got a better voice today than ever. He just seems to get stronger. You know.
Well, they're just like fine wine, man. I mean, him and T. Graham and them. I mean, they're just just awesome.
And people, like I said, I'm amazed at the young people that hear the music and say, I don't hear this on the radio.
Yeah.
You know, and makes you think, well, maybe you should.
Exactly. You know,
exactly. I'm not against, I guess I listen to all kinds of music, and I tell folks, being I grew up in Memphis, I listen to blues, jazz, all this.
Sure.
The trouble with the country today, what they call country music today, is
it's not country.
And I don't care what it is. Your music, I'm not knocking, but call it what it is.
Exactly.
Mean, there's no need. You be proud of what it is and call it whatever it is.
Exactly.
Country.
But it's not country. That's exactly right. I mean, I'm not here to, like you, I mean, I'm not trying to knock nobody, but, you know, country music, like you and I know country music, today's country music is not country music.
No, and the facts are the facts. I mean, that's just proven. And
that's right.
But, folks, go out, check Sammy's website out, order his book, Hit with a Bullet. It's a great book. You can download it online. Digitally, and look at Sammy's music, check him out on YouTube, and you'll be glad you did.
Yeah, and have them, you know, go to my Facebook page and like my Facebook. It's the original Sammy Sadler, the official Sammy Sadler is the one with the blue check. So if you go find the one with the blue check, like my page, guys, share it with everybody, and keep up with us. We got a lot of good things I feel going to be coming down the pike. I'm excited about having a new record. I've already got a second album finished to follow this up that's got great country music on it. And again, man, Ron, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me, to share my music and to share my story. I really appreciate it.
Well, man, we appreciate you taking your time. And we're going to you and I will be talking a lot more in the next days. So, folks, check Sammy's out. Check our website out, onfireconcerts.com, and share this interview with all your friends and get the word out there about Sammy Sadler. You're going to be hearing a lot from him, folks. Thank y'all. Sammy,
thank you.
We appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate it.